a little bit different than what's printed in your notebook, because I've kind of given you another option for how you're going to complete the assignment. As we've been learning about the age of exploration, we've heard a couple of names of people that have been involved, but really in terms of explorers themselves, the only one we've mentioned by name has been Columbus. We're going to correct that now by learning about other key explorers in this time period who worked for all kinds of different countries and who came from all kinds of different countries in Europe. You are going to use internet searching strategies to help you. That was kind of traditionally how I set up this assignment. But I'm also, as soon as well, you know what, matter of fact, before I get to explaining everything, I am also going to provide you with Explorer profiles that you can read and use to complete the assignment. For some of you, that is a method you prefer to scouring the internet. But it will be up to you to decide whether you use these profiles or whether you rely solely on internet searching. Whichever source you use, you are going to be completing in your notebook profiles for 16 explorers. You are also going to categorize them. It's not a perfect way, but it kind of helps us group together some explorers based on important things they had in common. Some explorers are in a category all by themselves, but still it can give us a shorthand for some students. It helps them remember a little bit about who an explorer was and what they did. You should proceed with this in stages, though. The very first thing you should do is complete the profile for individual explorers. We'll talk about categorizing them next. You will notice as you work through this, the categories are numbered. Again, don't do the category thing first. That's something to come back to. You will see explorers numbered. Explorer 1A, 2A, and so forth. With each explorer, you will see information you need to fill in. In all cases, you need to fill in the name of the explorer, their nationality, and if you're not sure on what nationality means, out to the side here, I would write country they came from, because that is their nationality. And the country they explored for, right, or the country they worked for, because those are not always the same thing. In most cases, you are also going to need to provide dates for at least one of their voyages. And now the first one, I've provided all the dates, but in others, you will see one voyage you have the dates for, the other you need to provide in the blank. Especially for the dates of voyages, and really only for the dates of voyages, will you, in some cases, need to use the internet. Everything else is available to you in the profiles I handed out, but not for all of them do you have the dates of their voyages. Let's work through Explorer 1A as an example together. So we have the dates of their voyages, and sometimes there may be clues here, but let's for now skip over it. Your clues are going to be grouped together for all explorers in this way: where they went and what they accomplished, whether it was something positive or negative. For this mystery explorer, we know that he explored the Americas. In his first voyage, he went to and explored several islands in the Caribbean and named some of them. One of those islands included Hispaniola, which today is Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And we know that he came back to the Caribbean again after that first voyage. We also know that the main thing he achieved was kind of opening the door for other explorers, kicking off an exchange of important things between the old world and Europe, and the new world of the Americas. And as an additional important clue here, that exchange of stuff is named after him. At this point, some of you probably already know who we're talking about. He did not get to Asia, right? He thought he had. Portugal thought he had to, and this caused some tensions between the Spanish and the Portuguese. And finally, in terms of accomplishments, as I said, these could be bad things for the indigenous people of the Caribbean. His legacy is negative for two reasons. One, he and his crews treated the natives very badly, including enslaving many of them. Also, his voyages brought diseases that wiped out the vast majority of some native populations. Anybody know who we're talking about? Yeah, Columbus. Now, in this case, some of you probably had it at 1492, because maybe at some point in your life, someone made you memorize in 1492, Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that was all you needed. Okay, so for name, Christopher Columbus. Nationality, the clues here don't tell you his nationality. For that, you would need to look it up or use the profiles I have given you. So in the profiles, your profiles are in alphabetical order. They follow the same order as your answer bank on page 21. But we have Christopher Columbus, an Italian explorer sailing under the flag of Spain. Right? So there we have got, bless you, key additional information. Right? His nationality is Italian. And what country did he work for? Spain. Yes. You may need to sharpen it in a minute, but you can use it. And if you didn't want to use the profiles, you could also look that up on the internet, and that would be fine. I told you normally to wait to do any of the categories until you have identified all of your explorers. That's just to make it easier. It's in my experience, easier to do as the last step. However, for this, just to give you some sense of how the categories work, let's look at the potential categories. Now, Columbus is in a category all by himself. Now, look at your choices. Now, second hour, some students got confused. They were looking at the list of explorers. No, don't. Explorers and categories are two different things. So just focus on the categories. We know that Columbus is Italian and that he sailed for the Spanish. We also know that he's kind of the guy that started the whole thing. Based on those clues, anybody want to venture a guess as to what category he belongs to? Xavier? 8, the godfather of Spanish explorers. That is correct. I use the godfather because of the Italian connection. It's an important thing to remember. It makes a whole lot of things about Columbus make sense. I went through like the first 2.5 decades of my life. Well, that's not quite fair. I wasn't thinking about this when I was 7 years old. But was thinking about this for a very long time. Why in the world we celebrated Columbus Day? Could not figure it out. I mean, he's a guy that doesn't go where he thought he went. Is responsible for the enslavement and mistreatment and deaths of millions of people, and yet he gets a holiday. And so this baffled me as to why. Like, this was before anybody was talking about words like woke, or had invented like Indigenous Peoples Day as an alternative to Columbus Day, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then I got an answer. And some of you are probably guessing he read a book. Did not read a book to get the answer. I watched The Sopranos. Does anybody know what The Sopranos was? You young people. Anybody? Not even Xavier, who knew the Godfather was Columbus. All right, The Sopranos was like an Italian mafia mob series on HBO in the early 2000s. And so I was just watching The Sopranos for giggles. But there was an episode where on Columbus Day, there were some indigenous people in Jersey protesting against Columbus. And all the mafia boys showed up at the demonstration to beat up the indigenous people because, well, why do you think they were doing that? Why would the mafia boys in New Jersey want to go beat up indigenous people on Columbus Day? Because who didn't like him? Who did the indigenous people not like? Xavier, I think you've got this. Right? I mean, Columbus, right? I mean, this is the guy that kind of ruined everything for the indigenous people of the Americas, but because he's Italian, he's a hero to the mafia boys of New Jersey. And then everything clicked together. We celebrate Columbus Day because if you tried to get rid of Columbus, not saying all, like it would just be mafia people, but a lot of Italian Americans are still proud of Columbus because he was an Italian explorer. Right? And so that's a big reason that we still have Columbus Day. All right. And that's kind of a very long explanation of how some of these categories work to help us remember people. But maybe it will help you remember why we celebrate Columbus Day. All right. Please work on this with the people at your assigned group of desks and search the internet if you need to. We will have an exit slip in the last 5 minutes of class, but until then, this is your time to start working. And do make good use of this time. Remember, notebooks get collected a week from today. All right. Good luck.